Thank you so much, Kay. I am definitely a fan of the daily tables, both the one in Roxbury and Dudley Square, well, Nubian Square now, and the one in Codman Square. Lowest price, great veggies, and if you're in a hurry, they have like pre-made meals, like salads and soups that you can have from them. So very exciting to get stuff from Daily Tables today. So welcome again to Elevate Youth's E.A.T cooking class. I'm always excited to be here. I'm a pretty excited person. But tonight I am excited for this muffin recipe. We haven't baked in a while together. And because you guys are pro now, we are feeling very confident. Again, the real reason we're here is to learn about healthy eating, but also to have fun. At the end, you want to have delicious muffins. If you don't, that's completely okay. You learn the process and you could try again. But we're going to do our bestest today to make sure we have amazing muffins towards the end. The first thing I want to do is get us really, really organized for a recipe. I'm always saying this, an organized chef is an amazing chef. So in your boxes, rather bags tonight, in your daily tables bag, you'll have quite a few items. Let's get organized. Maybe ask your parent or an adult in the room with you to get the recipe ready. The one that says March Eat Recipe, any fruit muffins. So I know there's a bunch of papers in your package. I believe it's the last page for you tonight. It might be the last page. That's our first task. Our second task is to get all our activities, all our ingredients ready. And so let's have somebody get our ingredients ready. Thumbs up if we're there. I'm seeing faces looking around. I'm seeing folks looking organized. So let's get ready. Or apples or fruit. I hear you have blueberries, maybe. What kind of fruit do you have on hand? I'm gonna be honest with you. You heard my toddler just now. Part of the reason I love this recipe, I find these around my house all the time. And I love this recipe because all these half-eaten apples, I could definitely use them for this recipe. So maybe you have a whole apple, not looking like mine, but definitely grab your fruit that you have on hand, your blueberries.
There's also bananas. Everybody got 3 bananas in the bag today and a pint of blueberries. So feel free to use a little of both or just one of those or some other fruit you have in the house. That's up to you, but we did provide blueberries and banana.
Okay, so I have a few fruits, right? But the recipe, any fruit recipe, we only need enough for a cup. So maybe half a banana, maybe choose a few of your blueberries for you. And for me, I'll just take the rest of this half-eaten apple. We don't waste food, right? Because food is so important for us. So I'll just make that enough for a cup. So maybe once you have an adult or someone who's helping out, you're gonna start chopping these up. So if you haven't already done so, the blueberries can go in whole. The others, just a rough chop, right? It doesn't need to be perfect. So just make them a little bit smaller. They're gonna cook just really quickly. Just wanna get those. I did wash his apple. It's okay if I don't, because he's my kid and it's gonna be baked. So just enough chopped fruit for 2 cups. So I have 1 cup so far. Again, it could really be 2 cups of the blueberries. It could be half and half. So I'm going to use half a banana and the rest of my apples.
Okay, so you said 1 cup at the beginning, so we should clarify that it's 2 cups.
Yep, yeah. 2 cups. So this is my first cup, and then my second. Go ahead, son. And my second cup. So my second cup. Okay, come and wash your hands in the kitchen with me. Why? So I'm going to put my other fruits. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be cut. So then you're going to have your second cup. Sorry about that. So I have my 2 cups. So again, not perfect, just any blueberries, your bananas, whatever fruit you have, just to make 2 cups. Do we have that? Now, I went pretty quickly because I chopped them really fast, but if you have a 2-person team, maybe one person is getting those 2 cups of chopped fruit or those berries in a bowl together. Now, this part is super, super important. We're gonna go ahead and add the maple syrup that you might have, your maple syrup.
We have honey, actually.
You have honey, perfect.
Yep.
The honey or maple syrup are natural sweeteners, right? We've talked about those, and we'll talk a little bit more about using natural sweeteners versus say sugar or corn syrup. We want to use those sometimes. So if it's in your case with the honey, a 1/2 cup, I use maple syrup. And so if you have an entire bottle, you're going to measure a 1/2 cup. And that goes directly into your fruit. And that's our first step. I'm going to repeat that. You had blueberries, you had bananas, and you had apples. And just enough fruit to make 2 cups. Chopped any way you'd like. Or you can have your blueberries whole. It goes into a small bowl. It could also just be a regular dish like this. And then you pour your 1/2 cup of honey on the fruit. We're gonna let this sit on the side so you can pull out all the juices and also moisten the fruit, soften the fruit, and that goes to the side. Any questions? That was our very first and most important step. I see lots of movement.
I have a question.
Go for it.
So we have to have, do we have to pour a 1/2 spoon of
Honey,
honey? Yeah.
1/2 cup. So if you're home and you probably have a measuring cup, if you're doing baking, if you don't have a measuring cup, I'm gonna grab
We have it.
a teacup.
Okay.
If you don't have a measuring cup that says 1/2 cup, and just do about a 1/2 of this.
Okay.
Your
thank you.
smallest teacup, right? That's your regular drinking teacup, not the big mugs.
Yes, I see.
Yeah.
Not mucho. Thank you.
Medio.
Thanks for that question. Now, our second step, which is super important, is to ask the adult in the room to turn your oven on. So you're gonna turn your oven on to 350 degrees. And then we're really gonna get started. So we have 2 most important steps. Chop your fruit, only 2 cups, and 1/2 cup of honey in a bowl. It sits on the side. And we turn our oven on. How's that sound? All right. So while you are working on turning your oven on, getting your honey and your fruit together, if you're a 2-person team, 1 person grabs a clean bowl, right? A brand new bowl. A large one this time. Once you have a large bowl, we're gonna start putting together our other ingredients. So if you still have your bag and your ingredients are together, I'm gonna ask you to start taking things out, right? Take the things out you're about to need. You're gonna need your whole wheat flour. It should be in a Ziploc bag, I'm told. Now, how do you know it's whole wheat flour? Whole wheat flour still has some of those beautiful whole grains intact. So it has more texture. It's a little bit brown, more brown or more colored, more cream colored, maybe not brown. It's more rough, right? It has those whole grains left intact. So you're gonna,
Can you repeat it again?
pardon me?
Can you repeat it again?
The whole wheat flour?
Yeah. This
Yes,
one?
we're gonna start taking all our ingredients out. So you're gonna need the whole wheat flour. Does that look like whole wheat flour? Does it say whole wheat flour?
There is a label on it. Yeah, I think
Great.
Sophie's showing you what it should look like in your bag. If you look at
Thank you, Sophie. You're also gonna need your all-purpose flour. And now that one, in your case, or white flour, is a more smooth flour, right? It's more refined, it's a little bit more processed. And for this recipe, we're gonna blend both.
And in your bag, it says 1-to-1 baking flour. That's what it looks like.
Okay, and so while you pull those items out, we need 1 cup of whole wheat flour and 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. So we're gonna use more whole wheat flour. Again, remember this word we used last month? It's fortified, as in it's enriched, it's fortified, it's made to be stronger, it's more healthy, it has more nutrients for you. So that's what we're gonna need for this recipe. So let's go ahead and measure if you haven't already done so. You're gonna have 1 cup of whole wheat flour and then 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour. I wanted to measure with you guys today so you can see we're doing this together. All right, while folks are working, that's a really good bowl I'm seeing. Our next 2 ingredients will be our baking powders and baking soda. So soda and powder, both.
What do you think of the channel?
Did I hear a question? So I'm seeing there's a lot in the chat. I'm seeing there's excited for gluten-free flour. Great. Thank you, Gay. And then I'm gonna ask folks to take out their baking powder, baking soda. Those are both labeled. They look pretty much alike, but it's really, really important that we get the measurements correct because each ingredient acts differently. The soda is usually needed when you have a recipe, a baking recipe that has a fruit component, an acidic component. You want to make sure if there's an acid from the fruit or from chocolate, you have some baking soda. And the baking powder now will allow you to have a really soft texture, like pillowy, beautiful muffin.
Excuse me?
Yes, I see a hand.
I have a question.
Please, go ahead.
What do we do with the 1 cup of milk?
We're not there yet, but thank you for checking. We're gonna do this together. We're gonna do our dry ingredients right now. So if you have the recipe, I'm going through it in order. So hold on to your milk for now. But thank you for
question.
asking.
So we have the baking flour. Is that okay to use instead of the all-purpose?
The baking flour, yes, it's regular, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
The flour
Thank you.
that came in the daily table bag is that was provided for you to use in the recipe, the 1-to-1 baking flour. So that's
Yeah.
fine. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So now we're at flours. We have 2 flours. Again, to repeat, we have 1 cup whole wheat. So the more textured one, the one that has some grains in it, we're doing 1 whole cup. The other flour that says all-purpose or baking flour or gluten-free flour, using 1/2 cup. Next, we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of baking powder. This is super important. The one that feels like flour and says powder, it's more smooth. That one is 2 teaspoons. And then baking soda feels somewhat like salt, maybe. It's more granular, it has more texture, it's more rough, if that makes sense. Now, I'll pause here so we can pay attention and not make an error here. It's super important that we're only doing 1 baking soda and 2 baking powders. So 2 P's, 1 S. And I'll wait. If you're not sure, maybe just say it out loud. That's a great way when you're measuring something and you want to make sure. Did I lose my camera? I did. You want to make sure that you have not made an error. One good example is just to say it out loud. So while you're measuring your powder, you'll just say out loud, 1 powder, 2 powder. It's a little silly, but it's kind of like error proof. I have lost my camera on this. I'll keep going. And then next you're gonna say out loud, soda, 1 baking soda. That way it's almost error proof. Now, once you have that, either wave or give me a thumbs up or a wave so we know you have it. Great. Now we're still working together. I do want us to make sure we're moving a little bit more quickly because you guys are professionals at this point. Now, a quarter teaspoon of salt. Now, literally, that's a pinch, not a big pinch, just a tiny, gentle pinch. Or you can use a measuring spoon and measure a quarter teaspoon. And those 3 items can go together in the same container, or they can go directly into your flour.
Do we need the milk right now?
We're about to get there.
Oh.
Have your milk ready. We're about to get there. Thank you. All right, next up, I'll put my next 3 ingredients so we have them lined up.
Excuse
So
me.
next up, yes,
Now we have to pour the milk.
not just yet. The milk is gonna be my 3rd item after my eggs and my oil.
Okay, so how much eggs we have to add to?
We have 2 eggs. We're gonna take our 2 eggs out as a team. We're also gonna go ahead and measure a quarter cup of oil. It could be any oil you have, perhaps except for coconut oil. I'd say almost any oil you have at this point will be great for this. So you could have vegetable oil, corn oil, canola. I'm using olive oil because that's what I have at home. A quarter cup of that. Now, this question I've been hearing, the milk. So our next 3 ingredients are wet ingredients. All right, so our 3 next wet ingredients. One more time, you have your eggs, 2 eggs, your quarter cup of oil, and your 1 cup of milk. We're gonna break those eggs. So if you have an adult in the room with you, or maybe you're a pro at breaking eggs, just have your 2 eggs. And while we're doing that, I'm gonna share with you. So we went through initially, we wanted to soften and sweeten our fruit. And then we did all our dry ingredients in 1 container together. And then the next 3 items were wet ingredients. Usually for anything we're baking, like a muffin or a cake, usually you want to separate dry from wet and then combine them. So the person who asked earlier about when the eggs will be used, this is the time for the eggs and the milk. Your 2 eggs, a fork or a whisk, and give it a gentle stir just to break the yolk up. I'm hearing no questions. I think we're on track. I'm more than happy to repeat myself. So in order, we have for wet ingredients or 2 eggs, lightly beaten just to get the yolk broken. And I'm going to talk about egg substitutes in a moment. I don't need water, baby, but thank you. Then we need oil. We need oil. I do not. And then we need milk. We need to have our milk ready. So eggs, oil, and milk. Do we have all our ingredients ready? All our wet ingredients. Hearing no questions. I hear movement. I hear working. So let's now combine all our wet ingredients. I'm gonna put the milk, the eggs, and my oil. And these go into my sink. So now I have my dry ingredients in my bowl. So just a reminder, what I have in this bowl here, I have 1 cup of whole wheat flour, 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, which is a white one, in your case, a gluten-free flour. I have my 2 baking powder, teaspoons of baking powder, my 1 teaspoon of baking soda, a pinch of salt or 1/4 teaspoon. That's my dry, oops. And then for my wet ingredients, I have my 2 eggs, slightly beaten, a 1/4 cup of oil, and my milk. So you should have 3 bowls of different textures. You have-
Suave.
right? Yeah. I hear a question come in. Okay,
Sorry, ours,
Yeah.
the tablet disconnected. So right now we're doing the eggs and the oil. Should we add the milk to the eggs and oil?
absolutely.
Okay, sorry, and thank you.
And feel free to check the chat at any time because I am writing in all of the steps as well as Tamika announces them. So you can always scroll back at, if you get a little behind, that should help.
Okay, so we have dry. We have our fruit with our honey. And then again, eggs, oil, and milk together. Now I'm gonna wait here so folks have those 3 items ready, and then we're gonna combine. While I wait for folks to catch up, I'm gonna grab my muffin tin. Because that's next. I also got a spatula. All right, are folks ready to combine? We do want to get these in the oven. We're doing pretty good for time. I'm seeing some stirring happening. I see lots of teamwork happening. I'm purposely pausing here. Yes, go ahead, please.
Now we're gonna mix the fruit with the mix.
We are. We're going to wait on our team members, right? We want to make sure that all our team members, we're a full team, that all our team members are at this step. So we're going to hold off quite a bit. And while I'm holding off, there is an option for chopped nuts. If you have those, you should have peanuts in your bags this month. It's not for this recipe, it's for another recipe. So it's okay not to add nuts. If you absolutely love nuts and you have them, you could do so, just 1 cup. I have sunflower seed. I'm going to add those to mine. But again, just to be sure, these are optional. Optional means only if you like it, only if you want it.
Yes, just so everybody knows, those peanuts are for a different recipe that is in the box as well. We'll tell you about that once our muffins are baking.
I think we're ready to combine. So we're going to do this process by combining wet to dry. So your bowl with your flour, if you have a wooden spoon, a spatula is ideal. I'd say avoid using a metal spoon for this one. But again, if that's all you have, it's completely okay. But a wooden spoon is usually best, or a spatula, like a rubber spatula. It has lots of movement, lots of flexibility. You can move things around, you can move things back and forth. A metal spoon, just less flexible. But again, if that's all you have, that's completely okay too. Now, in the next 2 minutes, we're going to combine our ingredients so we can get our muffins in the recipe, in the oven. So I do want folks to line our ingredients up and also have your muffin tins. I was told you had beautiful non-stick muffin tins, which is amazing. It makes cleanup a little bit easier. Again, if you choose to, you can use these liners. I don't like to use them. They're a little bit wasteful because you have to then peel it off and toss it. They're beautiful, but completely optional. If you have a non-stick, like the one you have, it's completely okay for this. So let's combine. I'm gonna ask folks to make a little hole, a little well of sorts in the middle of their flour. Good. And then I'm gonna have you pour in your wet ingredients. Because I have a spatula, I'm just gonna make sure I get all my beautiful ingredients out. Eggs are a little bit tricky these days, so I'm gonna get all my egg batter. And then I'm gonna add my fruit. And now it's super important not to overmix. You probably heard of gluten. In your case, you don't have a gluten flour. So the more you mix and like work really hard with any flour-based product, the tougher or less soft it becomes, more dense it becomes. So a quick stir just to combine all these beautiful flavors. I just did round and down. One technique is to fold in. So you go around and down the middle, around and down the middle. And that usually tries to incorporate most of your ingredients. I'm going to pause here to make sure that we are all on the same page.
So I've had a few questions about the dry ingredients, and that is everything that you guys had done in the earlier step, which was the whole wheat flour, the white flour, which was either the 1-to-1 baking, or maybe you have some white all-purpose flour in your house, the baking powder, the baking soda, and the salt. And those were all in one bowl together, all of your dry ingredients. And all of those are listed on your recipe if you need a reference, and also in the chat.
Thanks, Gay. As a cheat sheet, the recipes and recipes in general are usually written in the order of the ingredients used. So most recipes, the order of it's written. So first is usually the first thing you do. Last is usually the last thing you do, or the optional item rather. So in our case, the first two ingredients, fruit and honey, went together. The next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dry powdery things went together. And then the last 3 wet items went together. So they're grouped, right? They're grouped. All right, folks, we must get a recipe or in the oven. We must. So I'm going to be using, I'm going to be using a muffin, a scoop. I'll help you in a second. I'm using a scoop here. And what I want to do is make sure that every single muffin tin I have has about the same amount of batter or mixture. If you don't have a scoop, an ice cream scoop, because it's just not your thing, I'm going to show you another item you could use. A ladle, a soup ladle, right? These are hacks. So you could use a soup ladle, and then that kind of takes it right in to your muffin tin. Don't have a soup ladle? That's okay too. I'm going to grab what's called a regular cooking spoon. And that also is good. So the point here is you want to make sure or try as best as possible to make each muffin around the same amount of mixture, because no one wants to have the tiny muffin, right? You're going to be even. The other consideration here is to think about as you're scooping to get as much fruit evenly distributed. So, okay, make sure this one gets some strawberry. Make sure this one gets some bananas. Again, this is for you to decide, but you do want to think about how would you enjoy this muffin, right? You want each family member to get a little bit. And these muffins are great for, I was on the website for Elevate Youth, and you guys have a bunch of amazing trips coming up. These are great for packing as a snack. They're also good for breakfast. If you are the kind of person who loves a nice breakfast bar or breakfast item that's on the sweeter side, what's really good about this is getting your fruit and your muffin together in the same sitting.
Chef Tamika, is there never not a good time to have a muffin?
I'm thinking. Nope.
No.
No. These are a good alternative to dessert. If you're a kind of person who likes to have dessert after dinner, this is a good one because again, the fortified wholesome whole wheat flour is really good as well. I'm gonna stick this in my oven at 350. I went ahead and did it myself, but I just make sure like an adult in your space does it for you. So we're gonna make sure they're in the oven, okay? So let's just say in the next 2 minutes, if you're still working, maybe work a little bit more quickly. I'd be happy to repeat all the ingredients, but I think we were all on the same page, but those do need to go into the oven and we can have more time to talk after. All right, so my oven is on and heated at 350. My muffins are in the oven, so my next task is to clean up. If you have your muffins in the oven, give me a thumbs up or a wave so I can see where folks are. If you have questions or you're having a challenge, let me know so I can see where you are. Both Gay and Sophie are also in the chat with lots of edits and offerings or support. All right, we're hearing no more questions. So, yep, you also want to make sure your oven was on. If your oven was not on, thank you for that, Gay. If you had missed that early on in our conversation, this is where I'd say just pause, keep your muffin out and turn that oven on to 350. Most ovens will tell you when it's done preheating. There's either a beep or a sound, or it will get to 350, that number on the back dashboard. It is super important never to put any product in a cold oven. How many should you wait to take it out? Great question. So this recipe I've done in the mini pans. They usually take about 10 to 15 minutes for me. We're using larger muffin tins tonight. It does say 12 to 15 minutes. What I like to do is whenever I get a gauge for numbers, I like to wait until I'm near almost the end of that lower number. So around 12 minutes or so. In this case, she says 15. I see at the 10-minute mark, you do want to go ahead and take a toothpick or a knife. I just say, let me say, an eating knife, a butter knife, an eating knife, and just pierce your muffin and they should come out clean. But I do want to talk really quickly about how do you know they're ready. So we've talked about this a few times, right? We engage all our senses when we're cooking. You'll smell the difference. As the sugar caramelizes, as the fruit caramelizes and cooks, it starts to smell. You'll smell those beautiful fruits and the maple syrup or the honey in your case. It will look different. They went in flat. That baking powder and baking soda will react and cause them to rise. They went in light brown. That heat will cause them to caramelize and turn color, so like brown. So you use all your sight and all your smell and your touch to have an idea if they are completely done. Every oven is completely different. That's correct. Some people's ovens are a little bit older or slower. Some have more newer ovens. So the only way for you to be sure is to go to that lowest number, 10 to 15, and then either insert a toothpick or a knife. But again, using your eyes, observing through the window, if they've been raised, and also smelling if they're near done. Okay. So hearing no more questions, I do want to talk a little bit since we have time. I do want to make sure I'm pausing and looking through the chat. Are there any more questions? Okay. So your box or your bag this month had a bunch of amazing ingredients. I was told that you have one of my favorite dried fruit, dates, for example. You may have also apricots, dried apricots. So we did add a second recipe this month, and I'm trying to find it. I don't have it baked. The no bake bar. Again, I saw on your website, you guys are going maple sugar in, you're going skiing. I saw something else. You're going out a bunch, right? And those bars are a great way to make an overnight snack. So the night before, the day before, whenever you can, on your own, if you can do this, no oven needed. So maybe not too many supervisors needed. You can bake all those items. Now it asks for a blender. If you don't have a blender, you can actually try and mash those by hand, but a blender will make it faster. And you can make those bars and store them in Ziploc bags, and they are great for energy. They're a little bit sweet from the dried fruit and nuts, and they're a perfect snack for that pocket when you're traveling. If you guys are going skiing, I'm not sure if you had lots of skiing opportunity this month, but those are great on the slopes, right? Because your hands are wet, you're busy, but they are a great snack to have, kind of like your own granola bar, but these are moist and a little bit chewy. I'm a fan. So if you have some time, try out that recipe. It's a no bake, around 10 or so minutes to get it done. And you can make those Ziploc bags and they store very well. Now, what I like about those bars, if you look closely, there's not much need for sugar. The dried fruit has sugar. We've talked about sugar a lot. That sugar, one of those things that kind of make you a little bit hyperactive. It goes to your bloodstream. You know, it's not the best thing to have refined sugars. So we do love having those dried fruit, more complex sugars from those fibers. There's a great way to get a sweet treat that you made yourself, which means you know exactly what went into it. And I bet we can pronounce all the ingredients in our no bake 10-minute bar. When I buy candy sometimes, it takes me a while to pronounce those really fancy words that I have no idea what they are anyway. So I'm going to challenge you this month to try and make those bars on your own and let us know how they went.
Those apricots and peanuts and flax and sesame seed, that's all so that you can make those bars. So you should have everything you need. And I know we have one allergy, I think, in the group, but we gave you pepitas and sunflower seeds.
Yep. Oh, for my camera. Yeah, I have pepitas. My small person is growing recently, just reacting very interestingly to nuts. So I've been switching out to pepitas. I lose no flavor. I lose no texture, just as good. So again, nuts are very personal, but if you can't have them, then definitely sunflower seeds are a great alternative to it. While folks are still working, I do hope your muffins are in the oven. I'll share the other reason I'm excited about these no bake 10-minute bar, right? they have no artificial, not only sugars, but also color, right? Maybe you've gone to the store and bought some bars that look a bright red or bright pink or bright blue. What I like about these, they have no artificial colors or any kind of artificial sugars, like high fructose corn syrup, for example. All wholesome ingredients. I do encourage you to make those and try them out. Try them out for sure.
I was thinking also, when you guys, if you love these muffins and you make them again, you guys can always experiment too, and maybe add some cinnamon or a little nutmeg or a little, see what you can come up with that you think might add a fun little twist on the flavor of your muffins.
Absolutely.
Just listening to Chef Tamika talk about natural flavorings, it's much better to work with those natural things like cinnamon and ginger and nutmeg, and avoid those fake things they put in the packaged stuff at the grocery store a lot of the time.
Absolutely. That reminds me, Gay, I think there's flax seeds in this month's bag.
Yeah, they got 2 tablespoons of flaxseed meal. Yep.
Yeah, so these muffins could have also taken, we talked last month about this word fortify to make stronger, to make better. So you could have also sprinkled some flaxseed meal on this recipe or any kind of snack you're making to make it stronger for you as well.
I did include a sheet about flaxseed meal too, just so everybody could learn a little bit about it. And I think I may have given some ideas of how to use it. Yeah.
Right. I am hearing no. I think folks are just maybe peeping in their ovens. Maybe folks are like really working hard. Let's do a thumbs up or a chat check. Just a thumbs up or a thumbs down where you are. My muffin is in, my muffin's halfway. I'm gonna go check on mine actually at my 10-minute mark. But where are folks in their process? I see pouring happening. I love the diligence, the concentration. Almost like science back there. I'm talking about you, Victoria. Yes, I love the concentration. Don't let me break you. Who else do we have? I'm going to honor the silence. Mine have been out for 10 minutes. So I'm going to step away to my oven that's behind me. And maybe Gay has some updates for folks, or maybe Alec, but I'll come right back. Just going to check on my oven right behind me.
I just wanted to suggest to everybody, I do try to put a lot of great information in these packets. So be sure to flip through there. And in fact, eggs are so expensive right now that we even included some egg substitute options that I never knew about when I was your age. And I was really excited to learn that there are ways you can still make a recipe that calls for eggs without eggs if you need to, or what you would like to. So give that packet a look.
One thing I loved, and I have taken from the past, gosh, how many cooking classes have we done? Maybe at 20 or so, is experimentation, right? Kitchen is always about experimenting. Once you can get something figured out on the baseline, you can add little things and figure out what you don't like, what you do like. And I think that is just the coolest part about cooking. And I think that applies to a lot more than just beyond the kitchen, right? Trying to figure out what other things you like to do, what other things you don't like to do. So very cool. I like, Gay, that you shouted that out to say that there's room for experimentation. I know Chef Tamika always says that as well.
Great, thanks, Alec. Absolutely. And when I showed you that half-eaten apple earlier, I wasn't kidding. I collect these around the house because I don't want to have food waste. So again, you might see, oh, he already ate through this, I'm gonna toss it. Nope, this goes into the freezer. I chop it up, it goes into the freezer. I defrost it and it goes into muffins. So another thing is to also save on some of this food that's becoming super expensive. And Daily Tables definitely has low price and you can just grab things there. I'm seeing in the chat that kitchen smelling yummy. Okay, so I engaged my senses and I went over and checked on my. I'm not doing a good job with this, am I? Ta-da, there I am.
There you go.
So I checked on my recipe, my muffins, and I'll share with you based on my senses. They were raised, right? So they looked different. I can smell them. I can smell those beautiful sugars working together and those beautiful ingredients. They're more brown. They went in a little bit, yellowish brown. I know they're actually brown. But when I inserted my little butter knife here, I can see some texture, which means it started to cook. But it's also wet, which means it's not completely done. That was my 10-minute mark, right? So for me, I'm thinking 5 to 7 minutes. I probably wouldn't do 10 more minutes because I think I'm halfway there or probably a little bit past halfway. So that's how we engage our senses. We can smell the difference. I saw them raised. I saw the color change. I wouldn't taste these just because I have raw eggs in them, right? But I can see the texture has changed. So I'm going to keep mine at my additional 10 minutes and I'll keep checking. Someone in the chat said they have 7 minutes and 47 seconds to go. I love the precision. So again, for you, it looks like 17 minutes to cook. For me, it looks like 20 minutes. Each oven is a little bit different, but I love that we're almost at our finished product at the end of our class. Mine are smelling and expanding. That's the word, they're expanding. Sophie's done. Sophie, you have an amazing oven over there. Finished, okay. Can the folks who are done tell us what their number was? How many minutes? And while they're typing in the chat, I'll also share the other reason. One of the great reasons I love partnering with you guys, you always have fresh produce. Again, no two apples are alike. So maybe the water content in my apple and the water content in your apple is different, which means I have more liquid to evaporate, which means I might take longer to cook. Maybe your bananas are a little bit drier than my bananas, right? So those natural factors in produce makes our food have different 12 minutes. I know I'm talking, but I had to say 12 minutes. Amazing, Sophie. So when you're working with natural produce, the times may change because your water content might be different. If you went to like a large corporation that sells baked goods, maybe they'll have every single muffin done at the same time every single time, but maybe there is no real fruit in that, right? So produce does operate differently because each apple is unique, just like each purse is unique. So I did want to say that. I'm going to hand over back to Alec and Gay because some folks are done. And Jordy's done. I see Sophie's done. Nice.
I'd love to see pictures of everybody's muffins. I'm scrolling through in case I'm missing anybody, but I would love to see them.
Genji is swelling and expanding. Beautiful. Almost done. Couple more minutes. Amen. All right.
Beautiful
Well,
cat,
as usual,
Victoria.
Thank you so much for giving me the honor for working with you and learning with you in community as usual. Again, I don't have all the answers. I love to learn from you. And if you have a chance, even though you have those 12 amazing eggs, I'm telling you, eggs are changing in price daily. So this sheet here offers you some substitutes for eggs that you could try on at home and see how those work for you and let us know how it went. I'm going to hand back over to Alec and thank you as usual for being with us in community. And I hope you enjoy those muffins.
Thanks, Chef Tamika. Brendan, do you have a question?
No, mine is still in the oven. Shall I show you what the
How long have you had it in the oven for?
about 7 minutes?
Okay.
Oh, there you go. We
Yeah.
can see them that way, though. They're looking like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
I add like vanilla and cinnamon. Is that right? All right.
Oh, yum. That sounds great.
Like I try
I'm gonna
eyeballs.
interrupt and do one last suggestion. Always, I don't have many rules, but here's one rule I have. We never open our oven while our items are cooking unless we're very close to the end. Now, with 2 minutes to go, we won't have enough time to get into it. But imagine that you had an oven that was sealed and really hot, and you opened it in the wintertime in particular, all that cold air goes in. What do you think happens to the temperature in the oven? It drops.
Yeah,
So-
but then it'll go back up, won't it?
It will go back up eventually, but your product will be sitting there and waiting like, come on, people, hurry up. Like, where's my heat? Where's my heat? Now, muffins don't talk, but if they did talk, they say that. So you use an oven light, you peep in, maybe once halfway through, you'll do a quick test. You want to avoid opening that oven so many times to lower the temperature.
That's great advice, Chef Tamika. I'm gonna write that down because I do that way too many times. And what a great learning experience, right? Thank you, Brendan, for giving that to us, because now we all know, okay, we got to keep the oven closed in order for that to stay at the right temperature. And we could use that oven light to check in and see what it looks like. So thank you, Chef Tamika. Thank you, Brendan, for showing what you have.
You're welcome.
Any other final questions? I do want to say, if you please can take a quick moment, there's the post-class survey that's in the chat a couple times. We really want to hear from you. Also, for those that maybe missed it early on when we started, we are looking forward to planning a in-person event in May. We will keep everybody posted. We're in the early stages of planning, but we are hopefully going to do a barbecue in the park somewhere in and around Boston. So that is super exciting. Of course, we can't wait to see everybody on our upcoming outdoor outings. But right now, I would love to see or hear from anyone their muffins or any good stories they have from today or with Elevate Youth. And by the way, Victoria's cat is scared of her muffins. I think that's important to note.
I love it. Well, at least he won't eat them that way. I know my dog would be on the counter trying to get my muffins for sure.
I've got a question for our chef, Tamika, while she's still here. What's the best way to take our muffins out without ruining them?
Great question. So I have this fancy pants slanted knife, which we folks who cook have a lot of. I like to say anything wooden, you may lose one. I like to use a wooden, like not toothpick, like this is what's this called? A kebab stick, and just go around. I think the most important thing though is to wait till they cool a little bit while they're still hot and they're not quite cold, like together, you lose more. If you use a non-stick, it should be pretty easy. You want to push against and kind of lift, push against and lift. But I have this trusty slanted tool, so it's been a while since I've lost a muffin. I'll research that some more and get back to you though, because I'm actually thinking about what did I do before I had this one?
Wow, Jenny, look at those muffins. We got some big muffins over there.
Those rose beautifully.
Thanks.
All right, everyone. Well, we're at the end of our time this evening. A couple of us will stay on here a little bit longer to try to answer any other questions. I hope everybody enjoyed tonight's muffin session and enjoys eating their delicious muffins. Please send us some photos of your muffins, and we look forward to many more fun adventures in and out of the kitchen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.